Thank you very much, Matt, and thank you to KJFF for having this on the air. Thank you to JCTV for having this on their college station, and of course thank you to Jefferson College for allowing us to have it here, which we do every year, but we still always want to say thank you very much. And we have to also give a special thanks right now to Dr. Wayne Watts, who is retiring to a life of leisure. Well deserved. He spent a long time here at the college. Thank you very much. And Dr. Watts has spent a long time here at the college. In the past, they've brought different people in from outside. So it was really nice to see someone run the college who had actually paid all of his dues right here at the college. Jefferson County and all the way through. So thank you very much. We also want to say thank you to some of our sponsors. We want to say thank you to PC Tech. Now, PC Tech is the company that designs Jefferson County Growth and Development.org, JCGDA.org's website. And the website is a pretty good website for what it does, and that is to give people different information. It also allows people to know what businesses are actually members. There's close to 5,000 businesses in Jefferson County, and we do not have near that many that are members of this organization. So we want to say thank you to them. We want to say thank you to Northwest Chamber of Commerce, Lane Consolidated, Home Service Oil, Govro Land Services, Eagle Bank, and Ameren UE. So this is the first legislative session under the new governor, Jay Nixon, from DeSoto, Missouri. All of the elected officials in the legislature here in Jefferson County are all Democrats. They do such a good job that no one ran against them, so I'm looking forward to hearing how everything went with a Democratic governor and all of our Democratic legislators. I'm hoping there's lots of pork coming to Jefferson County. I know we had the pleasure of hearing Ron Counts' name, the new mayor of Hillsboro. Arnold. Oh, Arnold. No, there's Frank Rowland. I'm looking at Frank Rowland. Sorry, Frank, you still got a job. All right, start over. Take two, makeup. So Ron Counts of Arnold, and of course he was introduced by the President of the United States, Barack Obama, so I thought that was pretty cool. So we're going to start off with Tim Meadows, and Tim's got a few minutes just tell us his version of what went on in the legislature and legislate, whatever it is, and what you push for, because everybody has their own little things that they can kind of push for. So, Tim Meadows.
Thanks a lot, Chris. I don't know if I should touch the microphones or not, but I'm so tall. But good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the Jefferson County Growth and Development Association for having this and having us all here again this year. Believe it or not, I'm in my 5th year. I'm moving up, and of course, my good friend Matt West has covered my time in the Missouri legislature. It's been, in fact, he teases me all the time about my advertisement with my cup of coffee in my hand and still being at work 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. We did have several nights like that this past year. Passionately, on a personal note, I had worked for the past 3 or 4 years. I was very passionate about the funeral home industry and helped rewrite a law that I couldn't get past first base with 4 years ago. And it was time consuming. I traveled the entire state of Missouri, worked with hundreds of funeral directors and professionals in the industry. And after 32 years, this bill has never been changed. There were a lot of loopholes in the bill. Very powerful lobbyist on all sides of that argument. But I was very successful in the end with the help of many of my Jefferson County legislators and the Missouri General Assembly. We passed a reform bill that will now protect consumers and require for audits on all trust funds. And so it was a monumental piece of legislation, and I'm very, very proud of the fact that I was a part of that. Not to mention, I served in the Missouri General Assembly. As many of you might know, when I went there, I filled the shoes of Ray Adams, and I stepped into Ray's committees. But 4 years ago, the Speaker of the Missouri House came to me, and since my background was in trucking, and he asked if I would like to get involved and be on the Transportation Committee. Serving on the Transportation Committee also with me is Representative Joe Fellert from St. Genevieve. And Joe and I have done, and he's sitting right here to my left, Joe and I have done a formidable job, I'd like to think. I had 3 pieces of legislation that I filed this year that did get into the omnibus bill, of which we passed in the final legislative week of session. Now, many of you might say, you know, it's like Chris was saying earlier, all of us are Democrats. That is true. But I want to tell you, one of the neatest things that I've noticed, and now that I'm getting my seniority in the Missouri General Assembly, it's great, first of all, working with Senator McKenna. Senator McKenna has done an outstanding job for this county and worked really, really hard. I'm not going to take words out of his mouth because I know he'll have a lot to say. But he worked really, really hard at trying to get funding for Jefferson College. And in the end, I don't know if it had come through, to be quite honest with you. But I know him and Representative Rohrda and Representative Como and Representative Harris, all of us did everything humanly possible to get them some money for this college and for this county. I'd like to mention Representative Harris and Como, if I may. What an honor it's been to serve with them. They are on the Budget Committee, and Representative Belinda Harris has done an outstanding job, and she will sorely be missed once her term and time ends in the Missouri General Assembly. Thank God we have Sam, who's going to be taking up those shoes on the Budget Committee. I'd also like to say a good thing, something about my good friend Representative Jeff Rohrda. Jeff and I have served on the Crime Committee now for the past 5 years. I was on crime a year before he came in, but now Jeff is the ranking member on that committee. Jeff is also the deputy whip of the minority party. There's countless hours that this man's put in, and I can't thank him enough for his service. And we did get a crime bill passed this year as well, which is something I must tell you. In my time in the legislature, when I went into the Missouri General Assembly, Senator McKenna, I served 1 year with Senator McKenna in the House. It was because of him that I was able to get my first bill passed, which was about school bus safety. And we hadn't had an omnibus bill passed on the transportation side in that long period. So we were able to get that bill passed, and we were very, 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 very pleased that finally, after a 4-year dry spell, we did get some things done on the transportation side. Got some highway naming issues done. We cleaned up some CDL language so we can get some more federal funds and draw down some more federal dollars, which I'm very proud of that. Same with in crime with Jeff Rohrda. We were able to finally, it's been 3 or 4 long years since we were able to pass a crime bill, and Jeff had put a lot of effort into that, and I'll let him talk to you about that. Outside that, yeah, we did hit some roadblocks. The Republican-controlled House, we had an opportunity to get a bill and put 35,000 Missourians back on state Medicaid, but that didn't happen. There was a roadblock, and that roadblock came through the Missouri Republican-controlled House, and we were not successful in getting that done. And I know some of my counterparts will talk about that as well. I do thank you all again. I have a meeting scheduled at 8:30 in Maryland Heights. Senator McKenna has a meeting, I know, at 9 o'clock in Bridgeton, Missouri. And you know, you might think that when we're in the General Assembly, we are very, very busy. And I mean, it's nonstop. Well, many of us have lives outside the Missouri General Assembly, and many of us are forced to work two and three jobs. I happen to be one of those individuals that I have another job and I have other responsibilities. On another note, I'm very proud of my son. I'm going to mention this. I would be remorse not to. My youngest boy, Eric Thomas Meadows, is getting ready to serve his country overseas with the United States Marine Corps. And very proud of him. He will be leaving us probably sometime in July, but he's in training right now and to go overseas. And with that being said, I can't thank you all. Maybe I can take one other question, if there is one, but I don't want to take up anyone's time. Seeing none, I just want to say thank you all. Again, we'll see you at the golf tournament. Representative Fellert, Como and Rohrda and I will all be together. Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tim. Congratulations on your son. I'm assuming that he's in San Diego?
Yes, he's
San
actually on
Diego?
his way to Yuma.
Okay.
Desert training.
I've been to both places, but only as a visitor. So coming up next is our senator. The name is very familiar. His father was a very active politician. For any of the younger people that might not recognize the McKenna name, anybody over the age of 30 probably does, though. So Ryan McKenna.
Let me just say, Tim Meadows is one of the classiest people I've ever had the opportunity to work with, and I think we're lucky to have him here. Let me tell you what happened in the Senate this year. For me personally, in January, I was able to drive to Washington, D.C. and see our new president be inaugurated. I had the fortunate opportunity to spend a day with Elliott Davis this year, which was a highlight. And then I had probably the most important thing I think I've done in my political career, or at least the thing that I cherish the most. I speak in front of crowds all the time, but Dr. Watts asked me to give the commencement speech at Jefferson College's graduation last Saturday, and even though I didn't have much time to prepare, the last week of session is unbelievable. For those of you that don't have a life, that want to come spend the last week of session with me, I invite you to do that. We spent, on Wednesday, the last week of session, we were there till about 12:30 a.m., which would, I guess, be Thursday morning. Thursday, we went in at 9, adjourned at almost 3 a.m. on Friday, had to be back at the Capitol at 8 o'clock on Friday, and then adjourned at 6 o'clock on Friday night. As soon as that gavel hit, I got my car, started driving home, got about halfway and realized I left my wallet in my office in Jeff City. So I had to turn around, go get my wallet, come back, and then get up that morning and prepare for a graduation speech. But it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. A few of the things that I wanted to touch on is what we passed and what we didn't pass. We passed an economic development bill that I talked to Sam Rawls earlier today. I think we as a state don't do enough to help companies that are struggling right now, and do too much to incentivize companies to come to our state. Now, I think that's a good idea to incentivize companies, but we've got companies in Jefferson County here that are just trying to hold on to their employees, and we set up these state programs that in order to qualify for these tax credits, you have to expand your number of employees, offer a certain amount of salary, and offer health benefits. A lot of companies aren't expanding. They can't do it. And unfortunately, we didn't keep the Quality Jobs Light, it was called in the bill, which would have helped a lot of small businesses. We passed a $25,000 line of duty death benefit for every police officer, firefighter, EMT. Hopefully we never have to use this bill, but if any of those individuals would lose their lives in the line of duty, they would get a $25,000 benefit from the state for their service. I worked on a few bills. Matt kind of razzed me earlier. Text messaging bill, which, believe it or not, I really felt was an important piece of legislation, an important piece of public policy. Week after week, we hear of people getting killed by individuals that are basically typing in their car. It makes zero sense. A concession that I had to make to the chairman of the Criminal Law Committee in the House of Representatives was I had to take it and make it anybody 21 years or younger is not allowed to text. The reason that's absurd is we're almost saying as a state policy that if you're 22 years old or older, it's a good idea. It's a bad idea regardless. And I think last night on Channel 5 National News, I think that NTSA is going to address this nationally, which I think is what needs to be done and not cherry pick state after state. I'm going to come back next year and I'm going to try to pass it for everybody involved. the things that didn't pass. A thing that I was the most upset about was the opportunity. Early on in the session, the House of Representatives told the Senate, if we pass an economic development bill, they will pass a health care bill. So we passed the economic development bill, and we passed 2 health care bills that would have put 35,000 people that were cut off the rolls in 2005 back with health care. And the leadership in the House of Representatives, and I'm not ashamed to say it, lied to us and never brought up a health care bill. We took 2 of their bills hostage and took consent bills, made it another health care bill and sent it right back to them, and they didn't bring it up. I was not happy about that. I probably said some things on the Senate floor the last couple days when I called the House of Representatives a bunch of children and little kids. I wasn't talking about these people. And my hope, and secondly, the other thing that was important to me, and Tim touched upon it, with the stimulus money, we were trying to get Jefferson College a significant amount of money. I think maybe that was the problem. The dollar amount was too much, but Dr. Watts and the college have had plans. They've had engineering and the architecture done to build a new building that would house the nursing program. There's a 2-year waiting list for their nursing program out here. There's a year waiting list for their law enforcement classes out here. It would house those 2, and then also the firefighters, EMS, dignitary protection, homeland security, bioterrorism. It would encompass a lot of things, and it would give all the fire departments, public and volunteer across the county, a place to train right here in the middle of the county. And although that bill didn't pass, what we're hoping in the Senate, the President Pro Tem of the Senate is directing a joint committee on capital improvements to start meeting and getting testimony from people to possibly go in September during veto session and have the governor call a special session to address health care and to address capital improvements. So when those meetings are announced, I'll let Dr. Watts and the law enforcement and firefighter community know, and then they can do their dog and pony show for the 3rd time and try to convince people how important this is. The quit bill didn't pass. That was one that was, I think there was a lot of misinformation out there about it. There was ads out there that said your rates are going to go up 40%. There's no factual data to say whether it would or wouldn't. Ameren tells us it would go up 1 to 3%. I don't know where they get their factual data. I was supportive of the Ameren bill because what you do, if we don't start getting rid of the carbon footprint we have in Missouri, and they pass a cap and trade in D.C., all we have is coal burning other than the one plant in Callaway. And the costs of electricity are going to skyrocket if the federal government does that. So I'm sure Ameren will come back again next year. No, I guess not. They were one of the punching bags of the session, Ameren was. And for those of you that don't know, and I assume we're all Ameren users here, they have the cheapest rates in the state, and I think 49th cheapest in the nation. 7th cheapest in the nation. So although we hate to see that bill come once a month, please know that it's a lot worse than other places. And finally, there was a bill that would have dealt with autism coverage in the state that didn't pass. Again, it passed out of the Senate twice, and I don't know. I used to serve over in the House, but I don't know what's going on over there. This obviously the insurance industry was opposed to this bill. They're saying their rates would have went up 1 to 3%, but 1 in I think 150 kids now are being diagnosed with autism.
You're ready to vote.
Bringing down the house.
Wait a minute. Mr. Govero doesn't want to see a sign on the ground. And I think it's an issue that the Senate is very passionate about. It's going to come back again next year. One of our newer senators, Eric Schmidt from kind of Kirkwood area, his son has autism. It's one of the coolest speeches I've ever seen on the Senate floor, and it came from a guy that had been there about a month, talking about his child and how important this bill is. And hopefully it'll come back. Hopefully I don't ever have to talk to Elliot Davis again. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has anything specific. Thank you all, and thank you to Sarah for putting this together again, Sarah. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ryan. What we were talking about was we got a poster back here from one of our sponsors, Govro Land Services, that fell off the wall. So that was the pause for those of us listening on KJFF. And that might have actually got on TV, Dan, so that could have been a little extra, some action in it. We also want to thank Ameren UE, who's one of the sponsors. And, you know, the whole nuclear thing is a big issue. Like everything else, I'm sure that the issue will come back up, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mentioned that because I got a cousin that worked at the Rush Island plant and just got a promotion and is doing something up at the Callaway plant. And what he was saying was they probably got 3 employees to every 1 employee that they have at Rush Island. And it's all the redundancy for the safety, and just, it's kind of amazing what goes into it. We also want to thank Home Service Oil, Lane Consolidated, Northwest Chamber of Commerce, and PC Tech. You know, we were talking about, or Ryan was talking a little bit about the stimulus money. We were talking about economic development. Most everybody knows about our billboards, Shop Jefferson County. At one of the board meetings, somebody had an idea of putting the Shop Jefferson County billboards on a bumper sticker and seeing what types of vehicles that we could attach them to. And we have some sponsors that have gone in to help pay for the bumper stickers. We don't want anybody to think that the government's paying for the bumper stickers. We don't want to think that, you know, any of the money's coming from any of the cities, because it's not. Because it came from Govro Land Services, Comtree, Ameren UE, Lane Consolidated, and then an individual who works at Eagle Bank, and Portel. And how many, Sarah, how many bumper stickers do we have ordered?
1,000.
So we got 1,000 bumper stickers, and they're pretty much all spoken for. They're going to be going on the bumpers of the sheriff's vehicles, and they're going to be going on the bumpers of the public works and school buses.
The cities we're in talking with right now.
So,
getting
okay,
that
so right now they're all lined up for the cities. We're also hoping to get them put on the school buses. So the idea is the sales tax dollars. And that's not trickle-down economics if somebody buys stuff in Jefferson County. It's trickle-up economics if you buy something from St. Louis or any place else, because the tax dollars leaves Jefferson County. And I know my business, we capture about 3% of a $60 million business in Jefferson County. And I'm the only business that's in Jefferson County that sells these types of products. So, you know, I know that everybody is spending money other places than Jefferson County, and I'm telling you, everybody's going to be wanting tax increases, because what you've been hearing on the national media has taken a while for everything to trickle here. And like Ryan was saying, you got businesses that are not only not hiring new employees, you got businesses that are laying off employees, cutting their hours back, and, you know, even going out of business themselves. So that doesn't help Jefferson County at all. So remember, shop Jefferson County. All right, coming up next, we're going to have Joe Fowler, because he's sitting right here to the left, and have him tell us a little bit about the legislative session. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll talk a little bit about starting out, since Tim and Ryan talked about how hectic it is, and I'm sure the rest of them will too.
I know Belinda and Sam will probably talk more budget stuff since that was their specialty this year, but just the numbers are pretty overwhelming if you think about it. In the last week, almost all the bills, I think we did about 60 bills the last week of session, the last couple of days actually. We didn't have that economic development bill till Friday, which was cutting it pretty close. We weren't sure it was even going to come back from the Senate. As Ryan said, they stayed in late. It was kind of unprecedented. On Thursday, the House leadership and the Senate leadership were both kind of having a little feud internally, and they're run by the same party. And we ended up adjourning at 4 o'clock on the last Thursday of session. You know, and we was like, you know, what do we do? Because we're used to staying till all hours of the night on Thursday night. So that was somewhat unprecedented. But this year, just in the House, there was 1,241 bills just in the House. 957 of those went to committee, and 212 were reported due pass. And I think at the end of the day, we had about 160 bills total, that House and Senate bills. So it's pretty overwhelming. We got down to the end. There was 115 House bills, 48 Senate bills with 2 resolutions that also passed. So it keeps you busy in that last week. I think I'd like to touch again, and the sad part, and we'll reiterate what Ryan spoke about. Instead of hitting the high spots, I kind of hit a couple of the low spots. He mentioned the health care bill. That was negotiated early in the year by the governor, the Hospital Association, and a lot of other parties that sometimes aren't on the same page, Associated Industries, the Chamber, and a lot of those groups. Everybody was on the same page. The hospitals were going to buck up almost $54 million to provide health care to 35,000 people, mostly single mothers with children, to put them back on health care. And they were only at 50% of the federal poverty level, so we're talking people making $9,000, $10,000 a year. They were going to everybody was supportive of this, and that would have drew down another $93 million, I believe, from the feds. And at the end of the day, the House leadership, I have to give the Senate leadership a lot of credit. Them, the governor, and the House Democrats all supported this plan, but the leadership in the House decided they didn't want to put any more people back on health care. And this wasn't an expansion. This was a restoration of people who were out there. And with the unemployment rates where they're at, we're going to continue to see that number grow. And this would have been a good step in the right direction. It would have brought more kids back in, because parents don't get their Medicaid. They don't take the kids to sign up. And so that was rather disappointing. We thought there may be a deal in that last week once we got an economic development bill, but it kind of went away, and that was a bad day. So on the autism was also mentioned. I was involved in that in the last week on fiscal review. The lobbyists were yanking us pretty hard on both sides, mostly on the insurance industry. 3 different groups had come to all the people on that committee and told them, we just can't afford this. You have to vote against providing coverage for kids with autism. It's going to cost too much to the consumers. And I told one of them that, you know, that's going to be pretty hard to do. I'm pretty sympathetic to kids with autism. So evidently they didn't get enough votes to get it out of committee talking to us like that, because the chairman, to kill it. So the chairman actually was, I'm going to say, pressured to not even bring it up, which caused it to die in that committee without even getting it to the floor for a debate. So those were a couple of the things. Tim touched on the good things, the pre-need contracts for the funeral homes, something they've been working on a long time. And just the economic development, I hope everything works out with that. But if anybody has any questions, I have a list of all the bills that were truly agreed and finally passed. And I think Belinda probably has all the summaries of those bills. And but with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions. And I'll let these guys talk a little more on some of the budget stuff. And I appreciate the time and thank Sarah and the association for putting this together. It's a good opportunity for us every year. Thank you.
Good job. You know, we've been doing this for quite a while, and what's interesting is when we host the Meet the Candidates, so many of the candidates get up and they have got maybe 3 or 4 minutes to talk, and they can barely get through the 3 or 4 minutes. After they're elected, you know, it's kind of like, okay, you got to kick them under the tables. Your time's up, your time's up, and it's kind of neat to see how everybody kind of feels comfortable getting in front of everyone and talking. I know I tried to get a new mayor for Hillsborough, but we have the same mayor from Hillsborough, Frank Rowland here. Frank, it's always a pleasure to see you. Chuck Banks, the county executive's here somewhere. There he is. I always have to say hi to Sam Rawls. He's the Economic Development Corporation, and I guess he might have just left and went to work. So I also want to say hi to somebody that's in the audience. We don't bring out a lot of the people that are just sitting here, but you know, I remember once that they said, you know, you define a country by how it protects the disabled. And we got Linda Dallas from the Pony Bird Home. It is a wonderful organization for anyone that's ever gotten out there. It's very uplifting to see the way that we take care of everybody. I had some rental property, and at one time I had a renter whose child should have been at the Pony Bird Home, but the mother decided to take care of her herself. And it was amazing. The mind inside these people are sometimes more than perfect, but the body just won't allow them to do anything. So thank you to Linda Dallas and the Pony Bird Home. We're going to mix it up. I'm ready for a woman to talk, so we're going to have Ms. Harris come up. I think everybody thought we were maybe going the way we were sitting, but we'll let Linda talk. Thank you.
I'm Representative Belinda Harris, District 110. I take in Hillsborough down to Potosi, so I go outside Jefferson County and also a little bit of Franklin County. I'm also on the full budget for the state of Missouri. I'm in my 7th year as a legislator, and we try to have some of the ones that have been involved in the appropriations before, and I'm on the appropriations for agriculture, DNR, and conservation. It kind of fits with my background of agriculture or farming for 40 years and my environmental, how I deal with the economy, and so this helps me really develop into the budget. The budget was very different this year. We had stabilization money and stimulus money. There's 2 different funds. These different funds came to us through the federal government. We had a special bill to receive this money, and it was kept in 2 separate different funds. I think everybody puts it all together as if it was one pot of money, but it was 2 funds. One was to help stabilize the budget. It was meant for our operating budget, and we did that. The House of Representatives were not favorable in using it. It was very difficult to deal with the budget process this year because the House leadership was refusing to use the stabilization money. The Senate, when the budget went over to the Senate, they were putting money into the budget and actually stabilizing all the different departments. The other set of funds is called stimulus, and it was supposed to stimulate the economy by giving money out into the area of the state of Missouri, creating more jobs. This money was given in the House Budget 21. This Budget 21, it doesn't seem to get a lot of attention, but that is a very crucial bill. It has $2.6 billion in it. Okay, this money is being incorporated into the different state departments, and it'll be available through grants. Most of them are existing grants, and there's just going to be more money through it. So I feel this is a very fair way of handling the finances and allowing different groups, government entities, to apply for these, and it's done by merit. You apply like you would normally apply for a grant, It gets reviewed, and by the merit of that project, you will be approved. So this is kind of opposite of what some people term earmark or pork, where a senator or representative can pick a particular project and they say it gets done. Versus with this stimulus money, this $2.6 billion in House Bill 21, it is spread out evenly throughout the state. Everyone has a fair chance for this money. So if anyone's really interested, they need to get a copy of House Bill 21, and it breaks down all the different areas that are going to be beefed up with this stimulus money. We have 27 months to use this federal money that's coming in. The biggest category was the budget, trying to stabilize our budget. We are in a difficult time now. We need to maintain government services, and part of it is to be saved for next year. So it was a struggle for some of the legislators wanting to kind of use up maybe more this year and not having enough for next year. We worked with the governor's office, the different leadership, to try to balance this out so that we use some this year, save some for next year. There was a little disagreement on one of the bills where they were using maybe a little too much of the stabilization money, which is strictly for the budget, for operating purposes. Some of that was used in a bill that the governor and different ones felt was inappropriate. So we'll have to see. That bill passed. It was House Bill 22, which had a lot of good things in it, but it also was using almost $400 million of stabilization money that was really earmarked for next year. So we'll see if the governor, he has the ability to line item veto some of the bills. Mostly just the budget. He can veto whole bills, but the budget he can take certain sections out. There were some other things that I thought were very important that passed. The big education bill. And in it, it had some interesting little tidbits. One had to do with increasing physical education programs. We're finding out that a lot of our students are having a weight problem, health problems. We're wanting to start back at the schools, elementary area, and increase the amount of time that they have in education where it is physical education and classroom. That same bill had a requirement in there that teachers could have a choice between merit pay and their tenure. Merit would be more performance-based pay. This is going to be their option whether to use that or not. There's another thing where the age of 16 is what we've required students to stay in school. They've increased that to 17. So that'll help maybe parents have a little more control of their children while they're in school. Another section was a 4-day school. They have it's kind of flexible. You don't have to do 4-day. It's up to your administration, your school board, whether you want to do it. You can even kind of be a little more flexible, have each day maybe just a little longer, and then you can have longer Christmas breaks, you can have longer Easter breaks, or get out of school earlier. It has a lot of flexibility that you can change your school days around. They felt that maybe the high schools, it might benefit more having a little longer day and having opportunities of days off versus elementary, a longer day may be just very draining for those children. There was a bill that dealt with violent sexual offenders. We are having a situation where those that have been in the cases of violent sexual offending, that to house these individuals is getting to be very costly, and because some of them never get out, they never graduate out of treatment. And so we're working with the Department of Mental Health on some of the housing issues with that. There was a bill that I sponsored and made it. It's a House resolution for Amanda Cates. This had to do with domestic violence. She was an officer in Jefferson County, Crystal City, a police officer that worked in Bridgeton, was very knowledgeable of working with people, counseling, working with children a lot, and her fiance, through a domestic dispute, she was killed by him. And so the parents live in my district, and I went ahead and had this resolution passed that in October we will bring awareness to this terrible situation with the domestic violence, educate people during that time so that they are aware of what is going on. Another bill that I had Judge Page, Jefferson County Judge Page, had brought to my attention that Social Security numbers are public documents when it comes to divorces, child support, paternity suits. There's numerous areas in government where if someone wanted a record, they could get it, and it would have people's full Social Security numbers on there. So I worked for a few years trying to get that taken care of and hidden. And this year, through a big judicial bill, it was passed. So I'm pleased to say that from now on, they'll only show the last 4 digits of your Social Security number, and that the rest of which we do need the Social Security numbers for our records, they'll be in closed files. So these are kind of basically some of the things that went on, and I appreciate Jefferson County Growth and Development for their opportunity to speak to the public. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to go over some of our sponsors again. One of them, Dan Govro, does the land surveying, and so much of Jefferson County's jobs and the economy comes down to building homes, which has dried up. There's just not a lot going on. But when Dan starts to get busy, there's probably, what do you figure, at least another 6-month lag before anything else starts to happen? Hey, Dan, is anything happening?
Not a lot happening.
Not a lot, all right. I also want to thank Eagle Bank, Ameren UE, Home Service Oil, Lane Consolidated, Northwest Chamber of Commerce, PC Tech, they're the guys that does JCGDA.org, and of course, Jefferson College. Now, since this latest economic downturn, there's been like $11 trillion that has evaporated from people's wells. And I think like most everybody in here, if you had any money in the stock market, whatever you had about 3 years ago, you got about 40% of it left. And we got 2 other speakers. I'm going to have Sam go next. But a lot of it just seemed to be because of the predatory type lending. Maybe you might want to mention something about that. I think Sam actually used to work for the Chrysler plant, right? Building a Chrysler. I mean, my entire life, all the best jobs have been up there at Chrysler. And yeah, I think everybody that didn't work there was a little bit jealous, but I don't think anybody wanted them to go away, especially when it meant keeping a plant in Mexico and getting rid of the plant in the United States. But yet, we are the consumers, and if we insist on buying stuff made in China or made in other countries, this is what we're going to get. I mean, it's our, to a certain extent, the economy is our own fault. Now, when it comes to the predatory lenders, and I was watching a thing on TV the other day, a lady bought a $200,000 house, and the mortgage broker's commission was 10 grand. I mean, who had an idea that you could make that much money as a mortgage broker? And then I read an article in Forbes magazine where you had a bunch of kids that used to deliver pizzas for Domino's, quit to become mortgage brokers, and at the end of 2 years, these guys are making $300,000 a year. I don't think there's anybody in this room making $300,000 a year. So somewhere along the line, they changed the rules so that these people can, sell more houses. You got real estate agents that don't want to go through banks. They want to go through mortgage companies because the banks are going to say no. When the banks say no enough, the banks start to go out of business, so then they start to say yes. $11 trillion, everybody in the room and everybody listening on KGF radio or watching on JCTV, your house values have gone down. In fact, you probably couldn't sell your house today if you wanted to, at a 20 or 30% discount. So if you guys get a chance, you want to talk about any of that, that'd be cool. All right. Sam Como.
Nothing like being put on the spot on an issue, right? I guess first I want to say good morning, and I want to talk real quick about Joe Fallard. I know he brought up the healthcare issue. One big thing with that was not going to cost the state one dime. It was going toward GR. The hospital associations was going to pick that up. Joe Fallard actually sits on as a ranking member of that fiscal review, so he was very involved in that when it went through his committee. But of course, the chairperson would not even bring it up. So, also Belinda Harris, I want to mention with her. I went on the budget committee this year. Her leadership on budget has helped me out a lot. There's so many things to learn on that budget committee, and of course, we get hit with an extra $4 billion to look at how to spend. So I was looking to Belinda all the time. So what I actually want to talk about today is three different things, kind of where we are, what is going on, and where do we go from here. So first, as of March, the state unemployment rate was 8.7%, but Jefferson County's rate was 10.4%. This can't be blamed on anything but a bad economy, and has left many of our citizens laid off. Chrysler is one of the biggest problems, as was mentioned. At Chrysler, you got 4,000 auto workers, about 3,000 right now that's laid off. You're going to have another 1,000 here shortly. That's the direct effect. The indirect effect is about 20,000 people that we'll see by the time you do the multiplier. And who gets hit the worst with that is going to be Franklin County with right now they're sitting at 12.5% unemployment. They're getting hit and we're getting hit equally as hard. So we're going to see those levels probably change. I mean, I don't mean to scare anybody, but that's what we're going to have to look at. It's reality, and we're going to have to continue to watch that. Second, there's many things going on in the state. Being on a member of the Budget Committee and Appropriations Committee for Economic Development and Transportation, I've seen funding for many projects in the state. From $12 million for the China Hub in Lambert Field, that came in House Bill 22 or 22, which is going to help hopefully get that project going. $5 million for rail projects, $3.6 million for 7 port authorities around the state, $2.2 million for 10 innovation centers around the state, but nothing's coming to Jefferson County to help us with our unemployment issues. I know Fowler's over there smiling when I said the port authorities because they've got one down in St. Genevieve. So, one thing I'm very proud of this year was being a ranking member on Job Creation Economic Development Committee and seeing House Bill 191 pass in the final hours. Of course, it was the first bill to go through the House this year and quickly became a top priority for the governor. This bill gives the state opportunities to help existing business grow while giving the tools to recruit future ones. New programs like Build America Bonds. It was something that came to us at the last minute on economic development. They asked us to put that in there. That will allow for more efficient use of bond provisions through the Stimulus Act. So it's going to help us through that. It actually expanded more existing programs like Quality Jobs, a program that has been beneficial to many of our companies in Jefferson County. There's many more other programs that was expanded on. But like was said, we have to look at the existing companies and how to help them. One thing we did recognize was the importance of small business owners and actually placed a 4-year moratorium on user fees increases and reduce the effects on small businesses with 25 employees or less. So I think that was something good. One thing I've seen on economic development is we always look at the bigger companies, but we don't look as the smaller companies as being part of that when you're talking state economic development. But the problem is, small businesses equal about 80-something% of our economy. So I mean, we have to start looking at those smaller employers and start helping encourage them. One thing, it sounds like a lot of good things are going on in the state. So how do we, as a county, get plugged into these things as the state moves forward? How can we be partnership with that? We always hear that community support and clear direction of where the county wants to go has to happen. with the opportunity of the China hub coming, that could possibly be coming in, South America countries are looking for a way to expand in their markets. One other committee I sit on is the International Trade Committee and Immigration. So I've been hearing a lot about those avenues. I truly believe that Missouri can be an international hub for the Midwest. I mean, it's one thing we talk about all the time. And I believe Jefferson County can be part of that. The only question is, do we want to be? I mean, that is the biggest question that we have to really, I mean, there's going to be so many opportunities with this international hub if it comes through, and everything that they're talking about moving forward on. They're talking about the flights coming in right now. They go to Chicago. Those same flights are leaving at 40% capacity leaving. They're wanting 100%. And they think there's enough products in surrounding states that we can fill those flights going back. Of course, they're looking soybeans, products. So, I mean, I think there's a great opportunity there for us. And the products that they actually bring into the states, they're talking about there's going to be opportunities for possibly manufacturing, because some of the stuff that they use will have to come in, if it's a big product, will have to be reassembled here. So I think if we tie into that, we can be part of something that I think Missouri is headed toward anyway. It's just a matter of how do we want to be part of that? How do we want to be part of that process? I think the key is we have to, at that point, once we make that decision, we want to be part of this, what's going on, is we need to put together our plan for the future and the directions that will get us there. We need the partnership that has to make the priorities known. I mean, one thing we see, I think, at the state level that we don't hear, we know what the elected officials want. We know what everybody wants, and we get different all the time. Of course, the college wants, they had a program. We have other stuff, innovation centers. We have people that want sports. I mean, we have all these things going on, but I think what we need at the state level is kind of a voice on priorities, on how we want to get there, and a roadmap on here's where we are, and this is how we want to get there. And I think we need to do that. And we just don't need it coming from our elected officials. We need many partners in that from around the community, and I think that is what's going to give us the edge. Other counties that have done that, like Boone, and there's many other counties, they've all come up with a strategic plan for that. They've moved their county forward in economic development. They're getting the resources, they're getting the stuff they need, they're expanding their ports, everything they need, they're starting to do, because it's all part of their plan. I know Chuck and Sam Rawls have worked very hard in getting us in those directions, but I think we need a community swell from that. We need the community to wrap their arms around it and understand that if it's port we need, that the communities from Highway 30 and all over in Arnold understand and agree that's what we need. If it's anything we need in the county, if it's an incubator program, everybody needs to understand what is an incubator program. What does that even do? I mean, there's money out there for innovation centers, but we need to be able to say we want it, and we're willing as a community to devote our time and energy toward that. So with that, I appreciate the Jefferson County Growth and Development Association for having this and all their sponsors, and if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Thank you.
One of the businesses I own is a Hallmark store, and virtually every Hallmark card is made in the state of Missouri. After that, when it comes to the gifts, virtually all the gifts are going to be made overseas. That's just something that happened a long time ago. So whenever we're talking about a port, you got ports all over the East Coast, you got ports all over the West Coast. There's no ports, Alabama, Birmingham, New Orleans, those are big ports also. But if you brought the barges with the products up the Mississippi River, close to St. Louis, where you've got Interstate 55, you got the bridge to Illinois, you've got the railroads, several different brands of railroads. It makes perfect sense. Now, I think once it finally does get built, it'll be a little bit like that airport in Illinois, because then you got to change all the shipping companies and get everybody used to bringing it up the Mississippi River. But once it's to St. Louis, they're halfway to everywhere. So if they got stuff going to California, they got stuff going to New York, they're already halfway there. The stuff that lands in California that goes to New York, it just takes forever to get those products there. So whenever you look at certain holidays, it is a big, big issue. And I think that we have a huge competitive advantage if something like that does get put right here in Missouri. Jeff Warda, you're the last speaker, and then what we're going to do is we'll open it up for some questions. We'll continue on to right about 9 o'clock, and if you guys don't have any questions, don't worry, I've got lots of them. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Chris, and thanks to the JCGDA and all our sponsors, and welcome to the viewers at JCTV and the listeners at KJFF, and I think from the clicking I hear out of the corner of my ear, that we're being live blogged. So welcome to the folks that are following the live blog on the Jefferson College Library website. Is that right?
Jefferson County Library.
Jefferson County Library, I'm sorry. Jefferson County Library website. First of all, I'd like to say how proud I am. I was elected to Democratic leadership in the Missouri House in January, elected Minority Whip. And I want to say how proud I am of the Jefferson County delegation that you have representing you. And I know Mike Frame and Ron Casey were not able to be here this morning because of other commitments. But they, along with the folks you heard from this morning, Tim Meadows, Belinda Harris, Joe Fallert, and Sam Como, work so hard every day. And we are really, really the envy of the Missouri House, that we stick together. You know, you look at the St. Louis City delegation, or the St. Louis County delegation, or the Jackson County delegation over in Kansas City. They're the worst. They just fight like cats and dogs. They never stick together on stuff, and we always stick with each other. And we may not always vote the same on a bill, but we always consult each other. And you know, if Belinda and I are voting differently on a bill, she explains why she's voting that way, and I explain why I had intended to vote the other way. And then sometimes she'll flip me over, I'll flip her over. Or the same with you know, Joe and Sam may differ on a bill, and we'll share our perspectives before we vote. So not that we want to vote the same every time, but we want to be informed as to what the other perspectives are. And really, I'll say it again, we are really the envy of other House members, and particularly the envy of other places where they're strong Democratic contingencies, because nobody else can say that they're 7 for 7 in their House seats in a county this size. And it's really a positive reflection, not only on this county's Democratic Party, but more so on the 7 individuals that hold these seats. And also thanks to my good friend Ryan McKenna. I wouldn't say anything nice about him if we're here, but since he's not, I'll tell you, I spend an awful lot of time in his office over on the Senate side, and you need the help over there to get stuff moving that's passed through your side, and he's always been more than glad to shepherd legislation that I pass in the House through the Senate and make sure that it becomes law. And I was very fortunate this year. I had, I think, 5 or 6 amendments that got onto bills. So I had a really good year as far as getting legislation passed. But just to sort of sum up this legislative session, you know, I called last year a year of missed opportunities. I would call this year a year of squandered opportunities. You know, you'd expect with a newly elected Democratic governor and a Republican-controlled legislature that the fights would be between the governor and the Republican leadership in the legislature. Or between the Republicans in the legislature and the Democrats in the legislature. That's not at all what we had this year. You know, we had bipartisanship was the word of the day. You know, with the new governor coming in and a new speaker elected in the House by acclamation, by the way. He was unanimously elected, the new Speaker of the House, a Republican from Joplin, Missouri, who used the word bipartisan in his acceptance speech at least a dozen times. And that was the promise of this session, the hope that we all had that this session would be a bipartisan session, and the partisan bickering and the the throat cutting and the back and forth would end, and we would come together in this time of great crisis in our country and our state, and move our state forward. And I'll tell you, the governor came to the legislature with the legislative agenda, but it wasn't a governor beating his fist on the desk saying, I want this and I want that. It was a governor saying, here's what I want, what do you guys think about it, how do we move this agenda forward? And the Republican leaders in the Senate were at that table from day one to the last day, along with Democratic leaders in the House and the Senate. What was absent from that dialogue and was absent from the success of this legislative session was a House leadership that was engaged in the idea of moving the state forward. We had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. You know, the governor said that job creation was going to be his #1 priority, and he sent a bill down to the House, and the Republican leadership immediately made it worse, took us back a step to Bush-era trickle-down economics, and produced a bill that was nothing more than giveaways to big companies, big corporations, that many of us, these tax credits, the thing was just piled on with tax credits, but no help for small businesses, and no help for job training for the unemployed. So we passed that bill out of the House. I voted against it along with 15 other Democrats and 3 Republicans. And we sent it over to the Senate, and I have to say that Senator Crowell, a Republican senator from Cape Girardeau, took a lot of heat because he would not let that thing move forward the way it was. He, like I, is very suspicious of the effectiveness of tax credits. There's a lot of data out there that leads economists to believe that most tax credits are ineffective at job creation. So he held his breath, he filibustered, he fought and scratched, and he didn't let that bill out of the Senate until the last couple days, and it was a better bill when he got done with it. It had job training in it, it had more relief for small businesses in it, it had caps on these tax credits where it wasn't just the sky's the limit for people to come in and say we're going to create jobs and don't have to prove that they create jobs, and there's no clawback provision if they don't create the jobs. So he fought and scratched, and we got a better bill over in the House on that last day that we passed. The governor will no doubt sign, which is a better bill for job creation in the state. Now, I still didn't love the bill. I still think there's a lot of Reaganomics in it, and some of you are probably fans of that. But I just think after the last 25 years of trickle-down economics not having worked for this country, that we ought to take a look back in the history books to see what does work for this country, what has worked for this country in time of economic crisis. And I think we have to look no further than 1932 and the New Deal and the expansion of public works projects that put people back to work right away, made investment in our country, improved our transportation system, improved our infrastructure, improved our parks and our dam system. That's a dam with no end, no end on the end. And that's what brought this country back from the brink of economic disaster. And that's the plan we ought to have, and not more giveaways to big companies that promise to bring jobs in and then don't produce. So that's one chance that we had to do better. We took a bad bill and made it better, but it could have been a lot better than that. A real squandered opportunity was our chance to restore 35,000 of Missouri's poorest working parents. You have to be a working parent to have qualified for this, under 50% of the federal poverty level. $9,000 for a family of 4, folks. That doesn't do much other than put a leaky roof over your head and put stale bologna sandwiches on your table. What we wanted to do for these people was restore their health care at not a penny's cost to anyone in this room. The Hospital Association, after years of not getting it, the Associated Industries of Missouri, after years of not getting it, The chambers of commerce all across the state, after years of not getting it, finally got it and said, wait a second, no wonder health care is so expensive. We keep kicking people off of state health care and our premiums keep going up. Well, no duh. I mean, we've said this since 2005 when Blunt first posited that idea that we should arbitrarily cut 180,000 Missourians off of health care. We said this is going to drive up health care. These folks are going to wait till they're really ill because they've got no primary health care. They're going to go to the emergency room where state law says you have to at least be stabilized. They're going to get treatment at the emergency room, and they're not going to be able to pay for it. And guess who's going to pay for it? The hospital is going to recover its cost by charging us more when we go in there for routine medical treatments, and that's going to be paid by the insurance companies who are going to raise our insurance rates and raise those premiums for small businesses and large businesses alike. And the hospital association said, enough. We're tired of paying all this money, or we're tired of losing all this money in uncompensated care. We're willing to essentially tax themselves. And we also know statistically that once you put working parents back on health care, they get their kids on health care too. You know, CHIPS is a program that's available to all these kids, the children of all these parents that are at 50% of poverty or less. But a lot of them don't have their kids on health care because it just doesn't make any sense to have their kids on health care and them not when they've got to struggle just to get back and forth to work. They're not going to the doctor. They're taking their kids to the hospital for emergency care just like they're doing. Family that's insured together makes more sense than a family that doesn't seek insurance for any member. So everybody got that except, again, House Republicans. And you could even see that it wasn't just, that it was in large part just their leadership. You could tell that the Republicans that are personal friends of mine, that have a conscience, were really struggling with this vote, but there was a lot of pressure on them to vote no on the health care for these kids. And they followed their leadership, and it's a real shame because we know that our state and our country only does well as the least among us. And when others are doing well and others are suffering in terrible poverty, then none of us are really doing well. We had a chance to pass an autism bill. Autism is a horrible disease. It affects a growing number of families. And all we were doing was compelling insurance companies to offer a product. We didn't say they had to insure kids with autism. We didn't say they had to make a certain product available. We just said they had to offer a product to kids with autism, and they chose not to. And it was another missed opportunity. And I can see people pointing their clocks, so I'm gone a little bit too long. I want to answer Chris's one question, though. The question of predatory lending is really an issue that we can't handle much as a state. It's a federal issue, and the good news on that is the U.S. House of Representatives passed a credit card predatory lending bill last night. Only 6 members of Congress voted against it. So hopefully that's a relief for our state and every state where credit card predatory lending has become a huge, huge problem, maybe the next bubble that bursts. So thank you again. I'm glad to stay for questions. And thank you so much for this forum and for your attention.
Again, we'll wrap up here in approximately, what time is it? 9. All right, that clock was wrong. That's the one I was looking at. Hey, so we want to wrap up for the radio and TV. All right. Everybody can stick around and ask some other questions. But on behalf of Jefferson County Growth and Development, Ameren UE, Eagle Bank, Gulf Land Service, Home Service Oil, of course, Jefferson College, Lane Consolidated, Northwest Chamber of Commerce, PC Tech, and of course, goodbye to our good friend, Dr. Wayne Watts at the college. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.